I'm thick in the middle of finals week at my college. Lots of giving tests, lots of grading, good grief. But all that means it's time for us to look at the Tar Heels report card and grade them on their season so far.
You are Locked On Tar Heels, your daily podcast on the UNC Tar Heels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, what's up? Welcome into the Locked On Tar Heels podcast. It's Wednesday, December 13th, 2023. I'm your host, Isaac Shea. Joining me today is our guy, Coach Pat Kilby, and we want to thank you everydayers for making Locked On Tar Heels your first listen or watch to get your team every day. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 money line bet. That's $150 if your team wins. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. Hey, Pack and I would love to have more conversations with you. If you want to be a bigger part of this community, come join the Locked On Tar Heels Discord. We're having great conversations all the time. The link for that is in the show notes. Before we get into the show today, if you're watching on YouTube, you notice that Pack is suited up Barney Stinson style. He's ready to go, and that's because Pack is coming to us literally right after coaching his game. He's sitting in the gym there at Carl Albert High School. Dedication from my man, Coach Pat Kilby. Pack, how was your game tonight? What was the final score?
94-54. So
good guys or bad guys?
It was good guys. Yeah, we came out on top, played really well. Got some good traditional Carolina fast break going tonight. So that was icing on the cake for us.
Love it. So that means this is going to be a happy podcast tonight.
No
Pack, and he's got his Whataburger cup sitting there coming at you. So that's great, Pack. I love to see it. Okay. What's really fun, if you'll remember, those of you who are everydayers, on Monday's show this week, we had a mailbag episode. And there was one of those mailbag submissions that I wanted to save for today because it was actually an actual video submission from Emily Van Pocky, who is a major part of the Locked On Tar Heels Discord channel. Man, like the first person to welcome people in. She's awesome and just a great community builder. I'm so thankful for Emily. Well, in watching her video, she actually addressed it to both Pack and I, and we loved it. And I think, Pack, you were the first one to say, like, dude, honestly, I think this is an entire show. And so we started talking about it. I was like, yeah, so our entire show today is devoted to Emily's question. So we want to play it for you. Then we'll unpack it and get right into it. So, Emily, thank you for your video question. Here it is from Emily coming to you from the steps of the Dean Dome.
I'm sitting on the steps of the Dean E. Smith Center. This week on the UNC campus is finals week for the semester. As we all know, Tar Heels love to excel in the classroom and on the court. Starting with Coach Frank McGuire and Coach Dean Smith, Carolina has defined what excellence looks like in elite D1 basketball. The ceiling is the roof. At the beginning of the basketball season, you walked us through a basketball squad report card for grading the Tar Heels on their performance. As we head into this final stretch of non-conference play, how are the Tar Heels looking on their report card? What grades are they getting from Professors Shade and Kilby? And what do they have to do to ace their finals in March?
Honestly, Pack, Emily giving us the shout out there with Professors Shade and Kilby. I love it. And so that's great. Emily, thanks again so much for that. So, Pack, here's what you and I decided we want to do. We're going to break this up into our three segments of the show. We're going to start by giving you the report cards for the returning four players. And then we're going to do the report cards for the newcomers. And then in the final segment, we'll handle Emily's last part of the question about how will the Tar Heels ace their finals come March. So, Pack, let's get right into it. The returning players, RJ Davis, Armando Bacot, Seth Trimble, and Jalen Washington. Pack, I want to let you pick which player we start with and go ahead and give us your grade on that player.
Well, I kind of just want to start with RJ, because I think he's the leader of this team. And I'm going to just go ahead and say I'm giving RJ an A. And I'll tell you why. I think coming into this year, I think most everybody thought this was Armando's team. And RJ was a big part of that, but this was based around Armando. And now I look at this team and I say, no, this is RJ's team. and he's done a great job leading. He's just been such a consistent scorer. There's not a guard in the country scoring the ball as consistently and as well as he is. He's done a really, really good job for us. And I think he's made this his team, and everything flows. Not everything, but when he's playing well, he makes us really, really good. And when he's not playing well, he still finds ways to contribute and lead and guide and direct this team. And so I've got RJ as an A.
Same. I was hoping you would start there because to me, you said it perfectly. This right now is RJ Davis's basketball team. And I love seeing, like, I think we all wondered what would happen after Caleb left. By the way, Caleb is doing so well at Arizona. I'm so happy for him, man. That's incredible. And they're doing work in the desert right now. Big game against Purdue this weekend, by the way, in Indianapolis. Tune in for that on Peacock. I don't have Peacock, Pack. I got to figure this out. Anyway, RJ, man, just killing it. I was thinking even A+. If I'm going to be a one-upper here, but seriously, like I know there's like maybe his defense could improve a little bit. Whatever, sure, fine. But it's like I would rather have all of that effort on the offensive side and let some other guys pick up the slack on the defensive end for him to continue doing what he's doing. So yeah, RJ Davis right out of the gate, A+. And since you talked about Mondo, let's go there next, Pack. I guess I'll go first on this one since you went first on RJ. I've kind of been battling back and forth between A- and B+ with Armando. And the reason is, like, I think the reason we're kind of hard on it is because of the lofty expectations we set with Armando. But that said, he's not it's like started hot, has gotten better, but there was that lull in Atlantis. So I think I am going to go with B+ on Armando. Love what we're getting in terms of free throw percentage. I know it dipped a little bit in the UConn game there, but I think B+ is where I'd sit with Mondo. What about you?
No, I'm in total agreement with you. I think the B+ is the route for him. He just, he had that lull in Atlantis that was that's what's holding him back from being at an A. That was a 3-game stretch that was pretty tough, honestly. Yeah. But aside from that, like you said, his free throw percentage has been nails. He's been really good there. And he's done a lot of really good things. And he, I just want to see him add that consistency so that we can bump that from a B+ to an A, but we're not there yet.
No. And again, I said it, but really, this really is all about expectation setting, because you look at like rebounds, for example. This dude is 4th in the nation in rebounds, Pack, and second amongst Power 6 schools. Hunter Dickinson's number 1, and the 2 dudes ahead of him, I don't even know the acronyms of their school, of where they're from. A guy from Akron and a guy from Western Illinois are the only 2 other dudes ahead of him. And so that's what we talk about with expectation setting. Armando Bacot is the only player in the ACC averaging double-digit rebounds right now. It's like, so there is that aspect of it that I think part of what's baked into this not being an A is our lofty expectations. All right, Pack, let's go to the sophomores. Who do you want to treat first, Seth or Jae'lyn?
Let's go to Seth. His expectations for me are obviously a lot different than the first 2 we just talked about. But man, he has really improved. He has shown improvement on the offensive end. He's shown improvement in his confidence, what he does for guarding the basketball and the life he brings off the bench. I'm giving him a B+. I really like what he's offered so far. I think there's still room for improvement, but man, I'm really pleased with the direction he's headed.
With Seth, is that a B+ based on expectations that you had for him and him exceeding those?
Yeah, I'm not grading him on the same scale I'm grading RJ and Armando. I'm going based off of what I knew about Seth and what my expectations were, and he's exceeded those. And so that's kind of why I've got the B+ for him.
Nice. That's where I was thinking about heading, was based on my expectations. So I'll grade him then just based on period, like context free in a vacuum. And I would give him a B. And that's not all that. I think that shows what he's done, just period, regardless of expectations. But Seth has come in. He's been a big presence. He's actually knocked down a couple shots. He looks much more confident on the offensive end while still not giving up his defensive harassment. We talked about it in the Florida State game, Pack. It was his pressure off the bench in the second half that flipped that thing as it really started going. And that is something that he can bring game in and game out. There's no reason that he can't come in. We've seen Coach Davis utilize this 3G lineup with he and Elliot and RJ on multiple occasions. I think we'll continue to see the Tar Heels utilize that. And so coach's trust in him allows that to happen. And so I think we're in that solid B range with Seth, and that's great news. What about Jae'lyn Washington?
Jae'lyn has taken some big steps forward. And, I'll be the first person to say I wasn't a believer. I was a doubter. And what he's shown so far, I've been encouraged with. I'm going to give him a B.
Yeah.
I think he's shown, especially on the offensive end, he's just got a lot of tools in his bag that are useful. My concern for him and what he's shown so far is on the defensive end. It's just somewhat of a liability with foot speed and things of that nature. Given his injuries, that's not, a huge surprise and a huge shock. I hope that he can continue to improve, and I believe that he can. But as of right now, I'm going to just give him a straight B because I like what he's brought, but I think there is room for improvement, especially on the defensive end.
And some of it is opportunity based with Jae'lyn. When you're playing behind Armando Bacot, there's just not going to be a ton of time there. And I think it feels like the coaching staff is still finding out how much they trust Jae'lyn. Pack, it feels like to me like he's getting fewer minutes than I thought he would. Not a ton less, but I would have guessed he would have been regularly getting 10 to 15 while Mondo was in the 25 to 30 range. And it's not quite been there. I'm not looking at Jalen's, minutes per game average right now. And it might be in that range, but there's been games where he's been under 10 minutes this season. And that's been a little bit shocking to me. And so part of that is probably because of what he's doing or not doing, I guess it would be in a practice setting to force himself onto the court. But as you said, there are good things he's doing when he's in. He's a presence around the rim, has blocked a few shots. That touch is there. He started knocking down a couple threes. I'm going to go just slightly under yours with a B- for Jae'lyn Washington. But yeah, right with you, all the reasons you are saying. All right, Pack, let's move now from the returners, and we're going to go to the newcomers, both the transfers and the two freshmen. So that's the next part of our conversation. How are we going to grade those guys? By the way, folks, we'd love to hear your grades on all of these players too. Do you agree with us? Would you have them higher or lower? So we'll get to the newcomers in just a second. Right after I tell you that this episode of Locked On Tar Heels is brought to you by FanDuel. Look, right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 money line bet at FanDuel, because as the weather gets colder, the NFL offers stay hot. That's $150 if your team wins. So maybe you've been thinking about joining FanDuel. There's no better time to get in on the action than right now. The app is super easy to use. There's a wide range of betting options, all sorts of things like spreads, player props, over-unders. You even got things like ACC regular season champion odds, Duke at plus 240, Carolina plus 300, Clemson and Miami both tied third best odds at plus 500, and Virginia plus 650. So if you want to get in on any of that action, visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get in on any of that NFL or college basketball action. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. Pack, we've got 7 newcomers to the program this year, so we're not going to be able to treat them maybe as much in depth as we did the returners, but we've got the 5 transfers: Harrison Ingram, Cormac Ryan, Jalen Withers, Paxton Wojcik, and James Okonkwo, and the 2 freshmen, Elliot Cadeau and Zaden High. Same thing, Pack. I'm going to let you start. Why don't we take the transfers first, but you pick which one you want to go with.
Yeah, I think we should start with fan favorite Harrison Ingram.
Boy, should we start with Harrison Ingram.
And I'm just going to come right out. I think he's an A+. I think he's been fantastic. He's changed, the ceiling of this team, and he makes us very diverse offensively and defensively, and I'm thrilled with what he's brought so far.
Completely agree. We said it so much this offseason, but we firmly believed that him not having to be the guy would allow him to be the guy. And he has been that. This to me is, if we were putting together big three, like, we saw in the NBA as teams were trying to do that with the Celtics or Heat or whatever. It is Mondo, it is RJ, and it is Harrison Ingram. I think because of the uniqueness of his game, we didn't really know what to expect or how he would do so well. But man, I love what he brings. I love the unique wrinkle of the isolation post-up stuff that he can do, and how he can continue to facilitate and help this team. A+, I'm right with you. Pack, let's go to Cormac Ryan next.
All right. Yeah, Cormac for me is a B+. And here's the thing. I think Cormac is fantastic. I've absolutely loved having him. And in a lot of ways, he's an A. He just hasn't been able to get in that consistent flow yet offensively. Now, I'll be the first person to tell you I think it's coming, but he hasn't gotten into it yet. And so until he does, I'm going to stick with the B+. But boy, when he gets consistent, Carolina's going to be a very, very serious threat to make a deep run in March. And I think the more we get into the flow of the season and we get consistency in our games and not these huge breaks and these huge lulls in the schedule, I think we're going to see him really hit his stride. And that is going to take, like I said with Harrison, he changes our ceiling. Well, when Cormac hits his stride, that changes our ceiling too. And so I'm giving him a B+, but I think he's on track to be an A.
Yeah. Quickly, before I give my Cormac thing, I was looking up the Jalen Washington minutes. He's averaging 9 per game right now. So right about just under double digits as we were talking about. With Cormac, I'm going to go B- on him. And I think it's partly because of what he would give himself. He's the energy and effort is clearly there. It's just that the execution is not yet. Pack, I'm really curious to see what grade I would give him after Saturday against Kentucky or after Wednesday against Oklahoma, because I think this time off is going to be really good for healing that ankle that he hurt against Villanova. And I think it's going to allow him to start getting that lift on his shot again. And I think the threes are going to start falling, because folks, remember, he was really starting to find that groove right before he had that injury. And so I am hopeful that with some time off, the ankle's there, it allows him to be able to fully and capably do what he knows he can do. But my B- is mostly in the fact that his shot just hasn't been there so far. Other than the free throw line, man, he's been money there. All right, Pack, let's spend a minute or two talking about Jalen Withers. I'm going to go C- on Jay Witt. Honestly, that might be a little gracious, but he has not found his way into the Carolina setting or system yet. I don't know if it's like he doesn't trust himself, he doesn't fully grasp what's going on, but he, we've talked about, he gets a little ahead of himself. I don't trust it when the ball's in his hands. There's some flashes, man. The flashes are there. He just hasn't put it together yet, and for that I give him a C-.
I'm right there with you. I'm actually going to go with a D.
Yeah, that's fair.
And look, I like Jalen, and he offers something that no one else on our team can offer. He is a freak athlete, and there's maybe Seth Trimble is the only one that can rival his athleticism on our roster. But Jay Witt brings it in a way that he's 6'8", and he's long and lanky and can guard multiple positions. Honestly, 1 through 5, but he just hasn't been able to be trusted yet. And in a sense, he takes some crazy shots. He's been real loose with the ball as far as turnovers go. But, I think I'll say this. I think the staff knew what they were getting when they got him, and it's their job to bring him along. And right. I think he's going to come along. I think Hubert's done a good job of holding him accountable. It's just going to take time for him to learn and grow, and I think that he will. It's just going to take time. So right now I give him a D, but, his ceiling is high. I could see that growing.
Let's go quickly on Paxton Wojcik and James Okonkwo. Let's grade them both at the same time. Pack, what you got?
All right. I'm giving Paxton a C-. Just hasn't been able to influence Carolina, like I thought he would. I'd like to see him, look to score more offensively and contribute there. And Okonkwo, I'm going to go with a C. My expectations were low, so I think he's right where I thought he would be. I don't think he's better than that or worse than that. He's just right where I thought he would be, so I'll give him a C.
Yeah, with Paxton, like he's only taken 9 threes, right? Like I think that's where he's going to be able to make a major impact is hitting from outside, and he's hit 2 of those 9 threes. Where what I think he also adds is just the experience that Cormac and Armando bring as well, of guys that have been around college so long. He's a smart kid. He's been around basketball his whole life. His dad's a basketball coach. And so he gets the game. He gets the team. He's a great teammate. But for on-court stuff, yeah, C- as well. And then with the Okonkwo, with him, his value right now for this team is more in the practice setting, where he gives Armando a big burly body to knock around with in the post. But in terms of on-court stuff, yeah, I mean, there's just not much opportunity there, but C- for what he's done. All right, let's go to the freshman pack. Let's start with Elliot Cadeau. I'm going to give Elliot right now a B-. And here's why. The maturity, the ability to distribute the ball and not lose the ball. I mean, that assist to turnover ratio, man, he's doing something for a freshman right now. My downgrading is just because he's a freshman, right? His shot is not falling consistently yet. He's starting to find. We saw this a little bit in the UConn game, where he trusts himself getting to the rim a little more, or not trust himself, knows when he needs to a little bit more, I'll say. And that is an encouraging thing for me. But I think my grade with Elliot is going to go up as the season goes along.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I'm going to give him a flat B.
Okay.
And like you said, it's his assists have been, or assist turnover ratio has been great. The more he plays, the more he figures it out. I think that's been a consistent theme with him. Where he can go from a B to an A is to just be a threat from the perimeter. And teams have started to pick up on that in the way that they guard him. And we need him to knock down some shots from the outside to change that up a little bit. But if he can start doing that, he can go from a B to an A real quick.
Yep. So. Two other things I'll also say about Elliot that I didn't mention. His free throw numbers got to come up. He's going to get to the line a ton. And right now he's shooting in the 50s. And then he's still trying to figure out like the college whistle, getting in some foul trouble here and there. And, we'll see him improve on that. All right, Zaden high. I went first on Elliot, so you take Zaden first, Pack.
Yeah, I'm going to give Zaden a C+. And here's the thing. I know he hasn't gotten a ton of burn and a ton of minutes, but I was pleasantly surprised with what he did in the preseason, and I'm pleasantly surprised with what he's bringing now. And I would even argue, that I'd like to see him more in the rotation, especially
Agreed.
Given what Jalen Withers has offered thus far.
Or not
offered. Yeah. So I would be interested in seeing him and seeing Zaden get more minutes than he's got. And when he's out there, I'm pleased with how hard he plays. He's a good teammate. He scraps, fights, he rebounds, does those things well. So I've been really pleased with him.
Yep. What's interesting about it is I feel like if I was choosing a giving the team more than you and I expected award, it would either be Zaden or Seth Trimble. One of those two guys would win that award to me. And so similar to Seth, I'm basing my grade for Zaden based on expectation, and based on expectation of minutes and production. I'm going to give Zaden a B- because, as you said, what he's doing, what the team is asking him to do, right? There's more that his game is capable of, but he's not being asked to do that yet for this team. And so he's living within the parameters that the coaching staff has given him. And I think I don't know, I was going to say excelling. He's doing really well at that while hustling, and you're going to reward hustling, right? Like I know sometimes with hustling, you're going to make a freshman hustle mistake, whatever. You're trying as hard as you can. And I love that. So Pack, I'm going to go B- on Zaden high. All right. So we got to wrap up. That's our grades for the 11 scholarship players. But Emily's question is not done. She also asked, what are these guys going to do to ace their final exams come March? So Pack and I are going to fast forward ahead a couple months here in just a second to answer that question. Right after I tell you that this episode of Locked On Tar Heels is brought to you by LinkedIn. When you're hiring for your small business, you want to have as many top-tier candidates as possible to be able to interview. That's why you got to check out LinkedIn Jobs, which has the tools to help find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. It's critically important for the success of your business to have a pool of candidates to interview, and thankfully, LinkedIn Jobs makes it easy to find them. LinkedIn Jobs, it's not just some other job board. It's a vast network of more than 1 billion professionals, making it the best place to hire. LinkedIn knows that small businesses are wearing a ton of hats and might not have the time or resources to hire, and that's why they're here for you, because their process is intuitive, quick, and easy. They've even launched a new feature that helps you write job descriptions. That makes it even more of an efficient process. So take advantage of all this by posting your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. Again, linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. All right, Pack, again, big thanks to Emily Von Pocky for sending us this great question. And the last part of it, after our kind of grades here with 3 non-conference games left, is, hey guys, Professor Shade, Professor Kilby, forecast ahead a little bit. What do the Tar Heels have to do to ace their finals come March? So, Pack, I want to get there, but I think part of our answer has to be, what do they need to do between now and then to ensure that they're playing in the March Madness NCAA tournament?
Well, that's exactly where I was going to go with it for what we need to do to ace our finals. Here's the thing, basketball at the University of North Carolina, your final is how'd you do in the NCAA tournament and how'd you do in the ACC tournament. And so, to get to that point, we've got to take care of business. And here's the thing, even dating back to the last few years of the Roy Williams era, man, it's been a while since Carolina's been a top seed in the NCAA tournament.
18-19. Yeah.
And so, to me, that's taking care of business. And we've got to win. We need to win against Oklahoma. We need to win against Kentucky. We need to take care of business in ACC regular season play so that we can set ourselves up for success when we get to the tournament. I know that when Hubert's first year, we were the 8th seed and, made our way on somewhat of a miracle run to the Final Four and made it to the national championship. And that's great, but that was tough having to play the 1 seed in the second round. We need to take care of business now, do our work early so that we can, reap the benefits of that when March rolls around. And kind of, in my mind, the way we can do that is just to continue to bring Cadeau along because he really drastically changes what our team can do. And we need Cormac to stay healthy on the ankles, hit his stride, and continue to rely on and trust our bench. These minutes now are huge. They're huge. And I feel like it's starting to tighten up a little bit. And so I'm really curious to see if the staff adjusts back to relying on the bench these next few games against Kentucky and Oklahoma. But if we can do that, man, I think we're setting ourselves up for some real success come March.
That's very true. And in fact, Jae'lyn already put out a new bracketology on what day was that? On the 12th. That was Tuesday, yesterday. And Carolina was a 3 seed in he's got the Tar Heels as a 3 in March Madness. So what that tells to me, and I said this a little bit about this on Tuesday's show, is that Carolina has some national respect right now because of what they've done. I think particularly knocking off Tennessee, that was a key critical win. And but they've got to continue to do that. You're not just going to sit at a 3 seed because you did a little bit of something in the non-con. These 2 games coming up are critically important against Kentucky and Oklahoma. And so it's almost like if I can continue to use the classroom metaphor that Emily's given us here, if Carolina's going to ace their exams, they got to go to class all semester. They got to pass their quizzes. They got to take notes. They got to be in class. They got to do that work so that they've, if you get to your final exams, Pack, and you haven't done well during the rest of the semester, guess what? I don't care if you get 100 on your final exam, you're still going to fail the class because you didn't set yourself up during the semester. And I think that analogy makes a lot of sense with what we're talking about with ACC play here. So take care of business with Kentucky and or Oklahoma, but man, and Oklahoma. And then you get the easiest game of your season on paper against Charleston Southern. All due respect, they're terrible. But then don't forget, we got 3 road games to start ACC play after that, which is, let me remind myself, at Pitt, at Clemson, folks. This Tigers team is for real. And then at NC State. So that's a tough slog right out of the gate there. Now, come March, Pack, let's assume that the Tar Heels have done everything that they need to do to set themselves up to have success. Let's say Carolina on Selection Sunday finds out they got a 4 seed. What then are we looking at? Let's just kind of forecast ahead to taking this final exam for a success. What does success in March look like after a year where Carolina didn't make it, but then 2 years removed from a year where, as you said, a little bit of a wow, how did they make it to the national championship game? Is it enough to make it to the Sweet 16 in the second weekend this year? Is that success in terms of acing the exam?
I think if we made it to the second weekend, I would view that as success, but I don't think that's as far as we can go. I mean,
absolutely.
I genuinely believe this team could win it all. I mean, I'm not, and I say that like that would be tough to do, but it's believable, and I think they could do that. But having said that, I think to me, with the talent, if we stay healthy and nothing changes, I really think the Sweet 16 is the baseline. And I don't want to take for granted, being back in the tournament and all those things. That's important. We need to do that. But I think we should at least be playing in the second weekend. I think that's the type of group we have, the type of talent we have. We've got veteran play. I like the second weekend to be the baseline for this team.
I like that. I mean, we've already seen that this Carolina team has, like Tennessee, whom Carolina beat. And don't forget that first half and everything that happened. Tennessee was one of my preseason Final Four picks, folks. And Carolina, granted it was at home, but took care of them. For a long time in that UConn game until things unraveled a little bit, the Tar Heels were right there with them. I think we're going to learn a lot against Kentucky on Saturday, Pack, because this is a very young but very talented Wildcats team. Both of these teams are trying to prove themselves on the national stage on Saturday. And so I'm really curious to see what happens. But I love your point there that Sweet 16 isn't just a mark of a good season. I think that this team is good enough for that to be the expectation, that you have a good enough seed where making it to the second weekend should be like business as usual. The question is, with all the luck and everything that's got to go right to make a Final Four run, can Carolina do that? I think they can. Like you said, I believe that the ceiling is there. So we'll wait and see what happens more. Pack, I love this question from Emily. I love that we were able to unpack it all today on the show. Anything else from you before we get out of here quickly?
No, sir. Yeah, I just look forward to seeing how we end up on our final report card.
Man, yes, that's going to be great. I am very hopeful for this season, but it does not get any easier in the short term. Folks, that's it for today's episode of Locked on Tar Heels. Come join us again tomorrow. We'll have Coach Rob on, and we'll be unpacking some stuff there as well. Don't forget, come join us in our Discord. Again, the link is in the show notes. You can email us also, lockedontarheels@gmail.com. If you want to submit a video question like Emily did, you can do that at the email address. Do it in landscape mode, not portrait mode, because that's what fills up the screen. Don't forget to subscribe to the show, smash the like button, and rate it as well. That's all very helpful for us. Want to remind you that it's always a great day to be a Tar Heel. We'll be right back with you. But until then, Pack coming at you from Carl Albert High School. Let's throw them up. Peace.